say, do you know that Venezuela is literally opening their prisons and instructing people to just cross into America?
Yes.
Like, no. When you tell one of the wildest ones, I think it was you, we're having a conversation with a woman where you're discussing the gangs in Aurora, Colorado that have
That
taken
was me. Yeah.
and she was like, it's only a couple buildings.
And imagine if that's your community. It's only a couple of apartment complexes, right, with hundreds of people that have been taken over by Venezuelan gangs. I think, Joe, the right number
Is
of
zero.
apartment complexes taken over by Venezuelan gangs is 0.
It's in San Antonio, too. It's happening in San
It's
Antonio.
happening everywhere.
It's so crazy that people don't want to admit to this, because if they do, it's empowering the right.
Guys, I don't know why they sent this fool on Joe Rogan. John Fetterman? What the hell were y'all thinking? Like, I mean, I guess sending Kamala out there would have been much dumber and stupider because she can't hold conversations for long periods of time. But let's keep it a buck. Neither can John Fetterman, okay? Like, J.D. Vance had a great conversation with Joe Rogan. I showed you guys a little bit of that. But that's because the folks on the right, majority of them, can actually hold these conversations. They're trying to do interviews. They're not trying to hide from their candidacy. They're not trying to gaslight on their policies. But the folks on the left, they can't talk about these things for prolonged periods of time. They can't have conversations where people are going to see and expose the truth. That's probably the reason why Kamala Harris didn't go on the Joe Rogan podcast, is because if he's unable to just kind of press her over and over and over again for hours at a time, then the truth just floods out. Like, there's no way to really avoid it. You can't lie and gaslight your way through it. And even John Fetterman, of course, not being one of the people who's talented at gaslighting to begin with, he also wasn't able to do this. So without further ado, I want to go ahead and react to this with you guys, where he gets completely exposed and exposes Kamala Harris and Tim Walz and Joe Biden and all of them on their weak attempt to basically flood the United States with illegal immigrants so that they could secure additional voters and win the presidency, the Senate, and the House of Representatives for all time. Let's get into it.
First Democrats saying, hey, though, we need a secure border. It's a significant issue. And if I thought there was any kinds of issues, and I've been very vigilant throughout, I've been actively involved in those kinds of things, and I've never witnessed those kinds of a thing.
But what do you mean by issues? Like, what kind of issues you're talking about? You're talking about people letting people in order to get votes?
Well, it's not. There's not that level kinds. I don't think there's that level kinds of organization.
But there is an organization that's moving these people to swing states. There's a significant number of these people that are illegal immigrants that have made their way to swing states. And then there's been calls for amnesty. There's been calls for allowing these people to have a pathway to citizenship and allow them to vote. The fear that a lot of people have is that this is a coordinated effort to take these people that you're allowing to come into the country, then you're providing them with all sorts of services like food stamps and housing and setting them up, and then providing a pathway to amnesty, and then you would have voters that would be significantly voting towards the Democrats because they're the people that enabled them to come into the country in the first place and provided them with those services. This is a big fear that people have, and that you're rigging this system and that this will turn all these states into essentially locked blue like California is.
In perpetuity.
Well, it's what immigration is always going to.
What was that, Fetterman? I didn't understand you with all that damn stuttering.
Be a tough issue in our nation. You know, I had as a professor in grad school, Alan Simpson, and he
didn't even talk.
He was a United States senator. He was Wyoming, and he was actually a pro-choice Republican. I mean, how rare that would be. Well, it doesn't exist now. And he said, you are never going to have any meaningful immigration kinds of legislation. He's like, because both sides, that's useful for them, and it's going to be back and forth. And he said that 25 years ago.
Useful meaning the debate, having it always a political talk.
What you mean? How Democrats talk about how they're going to pass criminal justice reform, how they're going to fix the border, how they're going to fix the middle class, strengthen the economy, increase healthcare and other types of welfare benefits for all citizens, right? Reparations. I mean, you name it, they promise it. Student loan forgiveness. I mean, they promise everything. And they keep getting in office, and they'll have the presidency, the Senate, and the House, and they won't do anything the entire time that they have it. They could literally do everything all at once if they wanted to. Right? They could just pass everything all at once, and then you got to wait till 2 years later to see if Republicans, at minimum 2 years, see if Republicans can try to reverse or change anything. But they don't, and it's for a reason, because they want to keep winning elections. They could do something with abortion, right? But they didn't do any of that, because they don't want to do it, guys. It's that simple.
Useful for one side or the other. It's useful. And he said they were never going to be. And he said that in 1999. Mm-hmm. And I voted for the border deal, and that went down. And that's, I mean, he said that 25 years ago, and that was absolutely true now, that they had an opportunity to do a comprehensive border, bipartisan, and that went down because Trump, he declared that's a bad deal after it was negotiated with the other side.
But didn't that deal also involve amnesty, and didn't that deal also involve a significant number of illegal aliens being allowed into the country every year? I think it was 2 million people. So it was still the same sort of situation. And
basically what we have today, except worse, the people who are already here would have been made legal. They knew nobody was going to pass this bill. Some Democrats voted against this bill too.
And
Six
Donald
Democrats,
Trump, but let me just finish.
Six
and
Democrats
Donald
voted
Trump,
against that.
What they want are solutions, and they want a president of the United States who's not playing political games with the issue.
I hear you.
But actually is focused on fixing
Six
it.
Democrats voted against that bill. It would have allowed 1.8 million illegal immigrants into the country a year. A lot of conservatives had a problem with it.
Their fear is exactly what I talked about, that these people will be moved to swing states, and that will be used to essentially rig those states and turn them blue forever.
Well, I'm not really sure if that's what's in play. I think it's really it's important that we have to have an honest conversation.
But doesn't that seem logical, though? If you have a significant number of people that are being moved into swing states that have come across the border illegally, and then you've provided them with all these services, you provided them with food stamps, EBT, you've provided them with housing. You could, if you gave those people amnesty and allowed those people to vote, and it was very organized. You're talking about 75,000 votes over a few counties that switched everything over to the Republicans. You could see how you import 10 million people over the course of 4 years illegally. And then
that's just what we know about without including the gotaways, okay? The people who just cross over somewhere in the middle of the night. Like, a lot of these people are trying to make their presence known so that they could get transportation and food and all this stuff. But a lot of people don't want to make their presence known because they want to get into the country and wreak havoc. Okay, they're some sort of well-known criminal, they're terrorists, all these different things. So when you look at the estimated number, you're talking about double that number. Rogan's still talking about the reported number of around 11 million. Okay, you said 10, but the reported number is around 11, 12 million. But again, the estimated number is double that, which is over 20 million.
Move a significant number of them to swing states and then provide them with all these services and then give them a path to citizenship. You could essentially rig those states.
Undeniably, immigration is changing our nation. I mean, I haven't spent a lot of time in Texas, but it's very clear that immigration has remade Texas, and I think it's for a good thing.
What a freaking weasel! This guy's just talking in circles, but you get the gist of it, guys. He was tongue-tied. He didn't know what to say because there's really nothing that you can say when you talk about the border deal. I'm a little disappointed with a lot of conservatives for not getting into the deal more and just calling it the amnesty deal. Just call it the amnesty deal. Call it what it is, the amnesty deal, okay? The open borders deal. The open borders deal, that's all it was. It was an open borders deal. Apparently this thing had a teensy weeny tiny bit of border wall funding in it to build up a little bit, but it's nowhere near enough to do anything significant. It's probably only enough to patch freaking holes where they cut out parts of the wall, okay? Because that's apparently a thing that people do. They cut parts of the wall to get through. But of course, nobody ever said you was going to build it up and just walk away. Of course, it was going to require some maintenance. It's just like any type of fence or wall or anything. It requires maintenance, like a house. Like, you don't just build a house and it never requires maintenance, right? That's one of the biggest things any homeowner knows is, yeah, you're going to be doing a lot of maintenance on that house if you want to keep it up. But guys, I find it hilarious. I really feel like they probably shouldn't have brought anybody. They definitely did not bring their best. If you was going to bring somebody on Rogan, you should have brought like a Shapiro or something. But you know how that is. They got to make sure that they don't piss off that whole pro-Hamas crowd and, you know, have people thinking that knowing the truth, which is that they actually support Israel, even though they try to play both sides of the fence.
Tonight, mixed messages. A K-file investigation this hour finds Kamala Harris is targeting crucial battleground voters with vastly different messages on Gaza and Israel. This ad is running in Michigan, which has the largest Arab population in America.
What has happened in Gaza over the past 9 months is devastating. We cannot allow ourselves to become numb to the suffering, and I will not be silent.
All right, well, it's a very different story for an ad in Pennsylvania targeting Jewish voters.
Let me be clear. I will always stand up for Israel's right to defend itself, and I will always ensure Israel has the ability to defend itself, because the people of Israel must never again face the horror that a terrorist organization called Hamas caused on October 7.
Different message. Andrew Kaczynski is out front now. So, Andrew, those obviously do sound starkly different, to say the least. Tell me more about what you found.
Yeah, that's right. And this really illustrates the sort of fine line that the Harris campaign is trying to walk here in the closing weeks, closing days of this campaign on the issue of Israel. Here you have two entirely different constituencies, and they are getting two entirely different messages. There are often times these constituencies have very opposing views on this. If you are a Jewish person in Pennsylvania, you saw that ad that you're getting. You are getting that ad that talks about how strong she is in Israel. If you're a Muslim voter in Michigan, you are getting that ad on Facebook that's talking about how she won't be silent on the issue of Gaza. Now,
supporting Israel when convenient and supporting Gaza when convenient, like, these people are just overly politicized hacks. And the way that this election has gone is really going to show you that a lot of people just don't know what the hell is even going on. And even when sometimes they learn what's going on, I guess they just don't care, because they only care about things that they can feel the immediate impact of. And I'm like, well, hell, y'all didn't feel the immediate impact of them damn grocery prices? Because I can feel it. I don't make a little bit. I have a decent amount of money over here, but I still feel it. I'm still hurting like a lot of people, because the price of everything is higher than it was when Donald Trump was in office. That's, for me, the border and the economy, specifically the prices as it relates to the economy, are the biggest things for me. And for what I've seen from everybody out here, majority of people I know out here are broke as hell. So especially for people that are extremely broke, it really should be a bigger issue for them. Like, how's it not a big issue for you to be broke? I'm confused. But what do you guys think? Do you think it's a good move to send Fetterman, of all people, out here? Or should they have just hung back and let the conservatives have the Joe Rogan podcast? Let me know what you guys think. Drop a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. I appreciate you watching the Black Anomaly Rising channel. I'm out.
Well, I'm not really sure if that's what well, I you know, it's what